The story of Joseph. Lesson 4. The chief butler, who now had his old job back and waited on the king every day, had forgotten all about Joseph. There were so many other exciting things going on in the palace that the butler had not thought of Joseph. For 2 years, the butler waited on Pharaoh while Joseph waited in prison. Joseph was now 30 years old. Then one night, the Pharaoh had 2 dreams. The next morning, as the Pharaoh thought about his dreams, he became terribly troubled. He wondered what the dreams might mean. He called for all the wise men and magicians of Egypt, but not one of them had any idea of what the dreams meant. Then the king's butler spoke up. "Today I remember my wrong. 2 years ago when I was in prison, I had a dream. A young Hebrew man there told me what my dream meant, and everything happened exactly as he said." Pharaoh sent at once for Joseph. As Joseph was going about his duties in the prison, a messenger came hurrying from Pharaoh's palace. "Pharaoh wants to see you at once," he said. "Me? What for?" Joseph asked excitedly. He was led hastily from the prison, and after a quick bath and change of clothes, he came in before Pharaoh. There was the king of the greatest nation on earth seated on his golden throne, with elegantly dressed officers, other servants standing before him. What a sight to Joseph after spending those years in a dirty prison. Joseph waited respectfully to find out why he had been called to the royal palace. "I had 2 dreams," the king told him, "that worry me greatly. None of the wise men of Egypt can tell me their meaning. So I have sent for you because I have heard that you can tell the true meaning of dreams." Joseph replied, "This wisdom does not belong to me, but to the God whom I serve. Tell me what your dreams were, and he will give the meaning of them." Whatever happens to Joseph, we know that God is sure to honor him, because he humbly gives God the glory for everything. And Pharaoh answered, "In my first dream, I was standing by the river Nile, and saw 7 fat cows come up out of the river. Later, I saw 7 very thin, lean cows come out of the river and eat up the 7 fat cows. And afterwards, they were just as skinny as before. Then I woke up. A little later, I dreamed again and saw 7 ears of corn grow up out of a stalk. They were good, full ears. While I was looking at them, out of the same stalk came 7 withered, thin ears, which ate up the fat ones. Once more I awoke." "Your dreams are indeed wonderful," Joseph told the king, "and both of them have the same meaning. God was telling you what he is going to do here in the land of Egypt. The 7 fat cows, and also the 7 full good ears of corn, mean that there are to be 7 years of plenty throughout all the land of Egypt. Your gardens will grow, your fruit trees will bear, and you will have wonderful harvests with lots of grain and other foodstuffs. The 7 skinny cows, and also the 7 thin and withered ears of corn, show that afterward there will be 7 years of famine, when nothing will grow and people will get hungry and starve. This will follow the 7 years of plenty. The famine will be the worst that Egypt has ever seen. God has given you these 2 dreams to show you that these things will happen very soon. He is warning you to prepare for the time of the famine so it won't destroy every living creature in your kingdom." As Pharaoh listened, he agreed that this was the meaning of the 2 dreams. Joseph continued, "My suggestion is this. Find the wisest man in Egypt to be in charge of the food supply. Let him, during the 7 years of plenty, build barns and storehouses all over the country and save up enough grain each year to make sure all your people have enough during the 7 years of famine, which are certain to come." Pharaoh and his assistants liked Joseph's suggestion very much. As they discussed who should be appointed to the huge responsible job, Pharaoh said, "Who could do it better than Joseph? He is a man filled with the Spirit of God." And so Pharaoh made Joseph ruler over all the land of Egypt. He was in charge of the entire project. He was no longer a slave. He was next to the king in rank and power. Then Pharaoh placed his own signet ring on Joseph's finger as a sign of Joseph's authority. He dressed him in beautiful royal robes and put a gold chain about his neck. Pharaoh also gave Joseph the chariot of his second in command, and wherever he went the people bowed themselves before him, shouting, "Long live the ruler!" Remember, years before, Joseph's brother had sold him as a slave, hoping to humiliate and insult him. And here he was, the second most important ruler of Egypt, with everybody bowing before him. This is the way God works for those who love and trust him, causing all things to work together for good. God teaches us wonderful things through Joseph's life. Pharaoh also gave Joseph a lovely palace home and a beautiful wife, and he became famous throughout the land of Egypt. But all his prosperity and fame did not change the heart of Joseph. He remained kind and fair to all, and the people of Egypt loved him. Day after day, Joseph went throughout the land and gathered the food which grew everywhere in abundance. This excess food he stored up in huge storehouses for future needs, until finally he had an enormous quantity laid aside for the years of famine. During this time, God blessed Joseph and his wife with 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. Manasseh's name meant forgetting. When Manasseh was born, Joseph said, "God hath made me to forget all my toil." Joseph named Ephraim fruitful, because he said, "God hath caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction." At last the 7 years of plenty ended. Then the 7 years of famine began. Just as Joseph had predicted, all the fields and crops dried up, and harvests failed, and the people began to hunger. There was no food in the surrounding countries either, such as in Canaan, Syria, Arabia. But in Egypt there was plenty of grain in the storehouses. People from far and near begged Pharaoh for food, and he sent them all to Joseph. "Do whatever Joseph tells you," the Pharaoh instructed them. So now with the famine raging, Joseph opened the storehouses of Egypt to the Egyptian people and also to those from other lands who came to buy food. Joseph honored God, and God honored Joseph. Wherever Joseph might be, in the pit, in a Potiphar's house, in the prison, or in Pharaoh's palace, as the second most important ruler of Egypt, God was with Joseph because Joseph loved and obeyed God.